everyone told me that what I was doing would never work. That like you couldn't be a specialist, you couldn't charge hourly. Clients want to tip, which I think is the biggest BS ever. And everyone told me it fell. So it's been interesting because in the hiring process, I have to find people that want to change the industry, that want to experience it differently. But it's also been amazing because I've been here for 2 years and I went from renting a booth to owning a suite to now a 6-chair salon in less than 2 years. It can be done and it's amazing.
Hello and welcome to the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Nowakowski. I'm a salon owner, educator, mindset, and leadership coach that helps salon owners go from overwhelmed and burnt out to motivated and empowered. It is my mission to help you systemize your business, generate more profit, and create a career that you love. Join us every week to learn about the small shifts you can make to elevate your business regarding mindset, marketing, social media, business systems, and so much more. Welcome to this week's episode of the Elevate podcast. On this week's episode, we are talking to Christen Barrs, who is a fellow DTH coach. I love talking to Christen. One, I feel like she is the most supportive friend I could ever ask for. And I just love her journey inside of the beauty industry. She has such an incredible story. And I just felt it necessary for everyone to hear her experience, her journey that she's worked through and gone through, and then transitioning into a salon owner and a coach. Christen has so much to share and so much knowledge and so many amazing experiences that have molded her into an incredible beauty professional. And I just absolutely adore her. So I'm excited for today's show. Christen, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
I am Christen Barrs. I am a salon owner in Maryland, south of Baltimore. I own Good Hair Collective, and I'm a coach for Destroy the Hairdresser and an extension specialist.
I wanted to have you on the podcast because I feel like you have such a beautiful, unique story. And I wanted you to share, like, you've literally traveled all over the world and you have done hair in every single place that you've gone and rebuilt your entire business over and over and over again. And I think most people in your situation would just give up and they would just stop doing hair because it would seem too difficult. So I really want you to kind of share your story on what you've experienced, where you've gone, some of the things that you've done to rebuild, and what has kept your mindset going and given you the drive to keep pushing and rebuilding your business continuously to just keep your career going.
So I think it actually starts out with, I did take a break from being a hairdresser. Like there's a time I went to college, got my bachelor's and master's degree, and became a public school teacher. Because, I didn't like the industry at the time. Hair was always my love. Like when I stopped doing hair for a little bit, it was like a breakup. Like you could ask my friends. And it was like I broke up with my boyfriend who I'd been madly in love with. And then what happened was I taught public school. That was an interesting experience. And I met my husband and we fell in love and we got married. And then he's in the military. And so we moved to Japan. And when your military spouse, and like this whole time I always did hair on the side, like you never really stop. But when you're a military spouse and you enter this world, you are told that it's now your job. Like the Navy became my life, my everything. And I am super proud of my husband and everything he does. I do not want to be in the Navy. And I really struggled with being that military spouse, like big time. I lost myself. I had my son, I had multiple pregnancies, and I was alone in Japan trying to figure out living in a different country, trying to figure out what's going on with my body, and also navigating this whole military world, which I did not grow up around. Like I was not familiar with it at all. And honestly, like you fast forward a couple years and it got to the point where my husband advanced in his career and he had these big leadership roles on the ships he was on. And the responsibility I was expected to have as a military spouse, I didn't want to do. Like I had completely lost myself And that's when I finally decided like the military is not my career. That's his career. I will love him and support him through it. But I wanted to go back to what I love doing. And that was hair. Like, I love doing hair. And I remember when I was debating, like, I'm ready to get back into my career. Like, my son's old enough. He's, 2, 3, like, I can now move on. I even reached back to like my teacher friends and asked them, like, okay, for those of you, like, we're all older now, we have kids, like, would you keep being a teacher or would you do something else? And all of them said I would absolutely not be a teacher. And like, I was raised in a world like that was the ideal job for a woman, was to be a teacher or a nurse, and definitely never become a hairdresser. Like, that was not what my family wanted for me. But I realized, like, if I wanted to create the life where I could take care of my family and take care of my son and be a solo parent when it's time, like, it was that world of being creative. And so, yeah, like, I jumped back into it. And at the time, I mean, up until right now, actually, we move on average every 2 years to 18 months. And it's one of those things that it's kind of a blessing, because when I moved, like, I look at it as you have a year, because come 6 months before it's time to move again, I shut down and start preparing for my move. So like, you have a year to build your clientele and make money, and there's no time to waste. Like, you don't have 6 months or a year to build your clientele. You have to build it right now. And so the thing I do is every time I move, usually before I ever get there, I have models lined up in that area, which I will go on like Facebook groups, or honestly, Facebook is my biggest secret to building my clientele. Like, I think it's underutilized.
I agree. I say that all the time. People don't want to use Facebook. It is one of the most underrated ways to grow your business, hands down, especially with extensions.
Yeah. And it's like the mom groups or whatever group you find. I tell my students all the time, like, go post in there. I hate Facebook too. I don't want to be on it, but you post in there, people are going to see it. They're going to see it years from now when they Google in the search bar. Like, it is such a good connection. So yeah, I would get on Facebook and ask, like, I'm looking for models. This is what I want. And the last time I moved to Japan, so we moved back and forth a few times. We were living in a hotel and we went to like the food court that was there on the base. And I'm sitting on the base doing consultations for hair extensions, because I'm like, I'm going to do hair extensions here and I'm going to show you, because nobody did it for sure. And in Japan, like, my salon was in my home. It was in my front living room. And yeah, I would just sit there, like, you had to put yourself forward. I would love to live in a world where nobody knows who I am, where nobody knows what I look like, and I have a wildly successful business, but it doesn't work that way. Like, you have to show your face. You have to be willing to get on. And so, especially, like, I would use Facebook all the time and get on and do live videos and talk about things and just talk about who I am. Getting on Instagram, doing lives. Like, I'm big into like showing your face and letting people hear your voice and get to know you, and just being very specific about what you want. I remember I had one model where I was like, I want somebody who is Asian, who has virgin hair, and is willing for me to take them into a bright red hat. And it's like so specific. And yes, I was in Japan, so there's, a big pool of people to choose from. But I find, like, the more specific you are with what you want in your models, like, the better results you're going to get. And by building those models, you would have them come in, and especially with extensions, they would then become clients. They would then tell their friends. The deal for me with being a model is you have to share who I am. You have to go leave a review. You have to, post things on social media. But it was always a really great way to quickly gain clients. But I also go at it aggressively. There's no time to waste. You have to do it or you're done.
Yeah, I really like those tips, especially with the groups, and definitely bringing up Facebook, because I feel like it's such an underutilized platform. So you primarily do extensions, like that's all you do. And I want to know, because you and I both love extensions so much, where did that path start for you, and why did you decide to niche down for that, or in that, I should say?
Yeah. So I did not go to beauty school. I did an apprenticeship in Utah. That's where I'm from. And it was actually the first person True Eastman is her name, to bring extensions to Utah. And this was like 20 years ago. And so when I was doing my apprenticeship, that was just part of it. You learned how to do extensions. We did like, the self where you made the bonds, like individual bonds. When I started, we did a lot of synthetic hair extensions where you would get synthetic hair and braid it and then melt it around the hair. Like, I remember when like K-tips were created and how amazing that was, like that you didn't have to create your own bond. And I remember the first time I ever saw tape-ins, like, so I started with her. And that was just like, I don't know what it's like to be a hairdresser without doing extensions, because that was in my apprenticeship. Like, that's all I've known. And so I started there. I loved color was my big thing. And so I was a big colorist for a long time. And then the pandemic happened. And once we were allowed to open again, I remember my color clients were rude. Like, they were just mean. And my extension clients were not. And it's funny because I think extension clients get this bad rap for being high maintenance and having an attitude. And that's not my experience. I love my extension clients. So when we opened again, I was like, I can't deal, especially because it was in my house. Like, I can't have these awful people coming into my home and treating me and my son the way they were. So I decided I'm not doing color only clients. Like, you have to do extensions. And so that's when I primarily was focusing on extensions. And then when we moved back to the States, I was going to try to do color, but at the time my husband was going through chemotherapy, and just color can be unpredictable sometimes. And I didn't have time to figure out or have things show up. And that's when it was in 2021 that I finally was just like, I'm only doing extensions. I rarely do color. I will if somebody's willing to pay my hourly rate and I have the time to, but that's when I started doing extensions, because it gave me the freedom. I knew my timing, like down to an art form, and I knew I could be done and back home taking care of my family by the time it was done. And so that's how, like, full circle, like, it's always been there, but that's how I came to doing only extensions.
Can you please share your hourly rate? I did a podcast earlier today with somebody. I was on her podcast, and she's like, as a hairstylist, you can really just you get capped off on your pricing. And I was like, no, you don't. But share your hourly rate and tell us the process on how you got there.
I charge $250 an hour, which is awesome. I think my first hourly rate, this was before I found Destroy the Hairdresser. In Japan, I was doing hourly, and I was doing $80 an hour. And then when I moved here, I think I went to 120 and then 125. And then I was at 220 for a while. And then when I was coaching with you, I coached with you for that 1 month, and you're like, nope, it's time to raise your prices. And I went to 250, and I've been happy there. It's a good price.
And you still have clients, and people don't complain, right?
No, and it's awesome because I have like stylists that do a great job. And my clients, like, if I'm too much money, they can go to those stylists. And the funny thing is, usually about once a year, they will come back to me. They will come back to have, pay the $250 an hour to have their new hair installed. It really changes the kind of clients you have when you charge enough, because they have to really value what you're doing and they want to invest in that. And my clients, I adore them, but they are people who really want good hair extensions. Like, a lot of them have gone through extreme hair loss. They've gone through chemo themselves. Like, they care a lot about their hair. And so they are willing to pay top dollar for somebody who's going to pay attention.
If you've been feeling overwhelmed and overworked from owning your salon, you're not alone. If you're like many salon owners, you want to build a salon that makes you feel fulfilled and passionate while bringing freedom and flexibility to your life. You're exhausted from taking on all your business tasks alone, but it doesn't have to be this way. It's time for change. The Elevated Salon Owner Collective will help you do just that. You'll automate your salon, implement solid business systems, transform your salon culture, take charge of your online presence, and regain freedom. Doors officially open, and I'd love for you to experience freedom and fulfillment in your business. To learn more, visit opulentbeautypro.com/elevate or click the link in the show notes. I think they value their hair and what you do, but you also value what you do. And I think that's what gives you the ability to charge what you charge. You don't treat what you're doing as a job. You take it very seriously and you treat it like a career. And I think that is a missing piece where people don't understand, like, you can elevate your price point when you elevate yourself as well.
I think I found when I became more strict with my policies, with my expectations, that I had a clientele that was willing to pay more money. When I have a very strict like cancellation policy, my clients do not cancel on me. And I remember, like, as I introduced this stuff, it's not scary to set up these boundaries, but it introduced me to a different clientele, people who are like, you take your business seriously, so I want to come to you. Like, my clients changed because the ones that started coming to me were the ones that were like, oh, I saw your policies, I read through everything. Like, I know this isn't some side project for you or some hobby. Like, you take this seriously. And people do want that. Like, our hair is a big deal. Like,
it is a big deal. I, cut my hair short for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I hated it because I just didn't feel as beautiful. I don't know. I can't describe it. It looked cute. It was cute, but it didn't give me the feeling that my extensions give me. And it's just so powerful when you can really transform your confidence with something that seems so seemingly so small, but it really is, it's very impactful for so many different people for so many different reasons.
And I think I don't know if you've experienced this, but there was a time like I felt like I was doing the most vain thing in the world by doing hair extensions, that I was not helping anyone out. And then as I got older, like, honestly, after I became a mom, after I had lost a lot of hair and I realized the impact it could be. And I remember renting a booth when I first moved here, and one of my clients left and they were in tears, happy tears, because they finally like had the hair they always dreamed of. And all the other stylists looked at me like weirded out. And I'm like, oh, is it not normal for your clients to cry because they're happy? Like, and it's, I don't know, we get used to it because it's that transformation thing, but is that, can we make people see on the outside who they are on the inside? And I really do believe extensions can do that, especially for people who don't love their hair. Like, when I took my extensions out, I feel like a wet rat. Like, I love having them in.
Same. I just don't feel like who I'm meant to be.
No, not at all.
So you're a salon owner, you're a coach for Destroy the Hairdresser. I want to talk about your transition from just being by yourself in a suite to being a salon owner. What was that like? Because a lot of people think it's going to be the same. Like, I'm just going to a bigger space, but it's not. It's so different. So what was that transition like for you?
Okay, I'm really glad you asked this one, because kind of going back a little bit, like, I was playing with the idea when I was in coaching with my original coach, Kaylin. Like, I was tiptoeing around, like, do I open a salon? And then I was coaching with you for that 1 month. And it, honestly, I tell everyone, if it wasn't for that month with you, I don't think I would have opened a salon. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but we were talking and I just found out my husband was deploying a year earlier than we thought. And it was the shock to me because we had just gone through cancer. Like, I feel like I just finally got my husband back. And then I'm like, and now he's leaving. And my thought was, well, I can't do this. I can't open a salon and be a solo parent. And we don't live around family. Like, my family's all in Utah. His family's in South Carolina and Florida, and we're in Maryland. And I remember telling you this, and I was like, I'm just going to stay in my suite. And you told me, you're like, no, you have to open a salon because it's the only way you can take care of your family. Like, if you want to be able to take care of your family, you need stylists to rely on. And that hit me really hard. And it quickly proved to be true. And I started by hiring stylists in my suite. And I remember one time my son got super sick and I had a crazy busy day. My husband couldn't take care of him. And I called my stylist that I had hired and I said, hey, like, she had been working for me for like maybe 2 weeks. And I was like, I have this full book today. You're going to come in and assist me. Could you actually just take care of these clients for me? And she did. And it was the best feeling in the world because my clients were taken care of. Money still came into the business. I was able to take care of my son. Honestly, the primary reason I became a salon owner was to support my family. And to be able to, like, still do what I'm passionate about, not lose myself again when my husband deploys. And you helped me realize, like, if I want to be able to take care of my family and take days off and go take care of them, like, in order to have a successful business, I have to have employees. And that was the start of it. And then I kind of played with, like, oh, do I just get a bigger suite, a 2-chair suite? And when you look at the cost of it, like, suites are the biggest money suck. Like, they are. And so I went into the whole process. We found a place. It took forever. It felt like I had to decide to go into a different town. And once I was like, oh, we'll go into this town, I found the place I'm in right now. I was nervous that my clients would all leave me. It turns out it's closer to where all of them live, except for one. All of my other clients were like, oh, no, that's actually closer to my house. And we did the build out. And it's been, it's different. I remember when I first moved here, I was hourly. I was an extension specialist. I only did that. I don't accept tips. I haven't for years. And everyone told me that what I was doing would never work. That, like, you couldn't be a specialist. You couldn't charge hourly. Clients want to tip, which I think is the biggest BS ever. And everyone told me it fell. So it's been interesting because in the hiring process, I have to find people that want to change the industry, that want to experience it differently. But it's also been amazing because it hasn't failed. I've been here for 2 years and I went from renting a booth to owning a suite to now a 6-chair salon in just 2 years. I mean, in less than 2 years, it can be done and it's amazing. And again, like, I had a kidney stone the other week and went to the ER and had a client that was starting a new job the next day and we're putting in new extensions. And again, I called the same stylist and I was like, hey, can you take care of this client? I was able to go on a vacation with my family, which it was just my little family. We haven't done a vacation, just the 3 of us, for 5 years. And it was important because my husband's leaving. So we went on this vacation and, like, I would look and the salon was still bringing in money. Like, my business was still making money. And the way we teach things, like, I didn't have to worry about my stylists. They are independent people. It is commission, but they are independent. They're amazing. They're responsible for themselves. They took care of it. And I was able to run around Harry Potter world and pretend we were in that world with my son. And it was the best time ever. There's a lot of hard work that comes in with owning a salon. There's a lot of stress. But honestly, it came to that moment where you told me, like, you have to do it for your family. And for that reason, like, it feeds me and what I want as a person, but it also, like, it supports my family. And it feels really good to be creating a business where you can do that.
Yeah, I love one. I feel like tipping on extension services is awkward because people are like, do I tip on the hair? Don't I tip on the hair? So eliminating it is such a game changer. If you're extension focused, charge what you want and eliminate tips 100%. Yeah. And I love the way that we set up our salons at DTH because most salon owners, when they create their salon, they really create a prison for themselves because they can't remove themselves. They can't not micromanage. They can't get their head out of the business. They don't trust their team. They don't hire the right team. They don't have the freedoms. They don't train their team to have personal responsibility to take care of their own businesses. So with the way that we do things, you and I, like, we literally can leave our salons and we don't have to worry about what's going on because we hire the right people and we have all of these great systems and these different foundations in place. So I think if you are somebody who wants to, like, have freedom and spend more time with your family, like, you have to open a salon.
Yeah. And my husband explained it because when we first opened, it's like having a new baby. The first 4 months, like, you're just trying to not kill this creature you've created. And I remember when I had my son, that was really hard. The first 4 months for my husband was like, what do you mean you're giving all your attention and everything to this? And the first 4 months, like, there was a lot of work. There was a lot of late nights. There was hiring people. There was firing people, like, getting things figured out. But now we're past that. Like, we're in the stages where, like, the baby can hold their head up kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And it is amazing to watch these stylists. Like, they're completely capable. And I think the way we treat our stylists, and if we give them the responsibility, like, they'll live up to it. They want that freedom. And when you give your stylist freedom, it gives you freedom.
Yes, it definitely gives you freedom. One last talk. I want to talk about you becoming a coach. So what was that like for you, starting to coach with DTH? Because you worked with Kaylin, you worked with me for a hot minute. And then you were just kind of like catapulted into this new position with Destroy the Hairdresser, and you are an amazing coach. But what was that like for you?
It was crazy. I think I wasn't even with DTH for a year before I became a coach. Like I remember I found DTH on Clubhouse, and I remember listening to Kaylin talk about being gratuity free. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only crazy person in this world that doesn't accept tips and does hourly pricing. And so I remember I was just coaching with Kaylin, and she kept bringing it up. She's like, you need to be a coach. You need to be a coach. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I would love to. Like, I admired all of you so much. Like, you get on Clubhouse and I see all of you talking, and it was like this big fangirl. And I was just so impressed with everything you guys did. And then I switched over to coaching with you because Kaylin left for maternity leave. And then I was terrified of you, by the way. I chose you because like I was scared, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be like Patricia.
Everyone says that. Oh, good.
No, and it wasn't because you were scared. It was just like, I was like, your vessel's so big that I admired you a lot, and I still do. But then I remember getting that email from Drew that's like interview, and it was scary, and it was different because I didn't know Sid and David. Like, because I coached with you and I coached with Kaylin, like I didn't have that relationship. I think me and MJ coached with you were the first ones to not directly coach with Sid or David. So it was scary, but the training was amazing. Like I love just in our little like Slack channel, like seeing how everyone behaves. It's awesome to see that all the coaches are real human beings. Like we all struggle. But then I love watching how everyone moves through it. I love watching Sid and David, like how they run their business. When I've talked to them about like, oh, I told my stylist I was doing this, but I want to change their mind. And they're like, then change your mind. Like you can. And I see them do that, like in the business, they switch things up. But it's just been amazing. And honestly, coaching my students, like, I think it's my favorite part of my week is that coaching and mentoring and watching them make changes. Like I had, or little things like my students being able to pay off their taxes because they planned, or they're learning how to react to clients and how to respond, and them starting to see, I don't know if you see this, like you see your students and you can see so much potential and they can't always see it.
Yeah.
But as they like, those blinds start to come off and they see what they can do and who they can be, I think it's the most rewarding thing. It is hard, but I love it.
I know it's definitely one of the most amazing things that I've ever done in my career. I love coaching, and it's so funny because we're teaching all of these concepts. We're not just teaching like things like remove the front desk and, remove your retail. We're teaching really deep concepts to grow consciousness and to really understand who they are, bring self-awareness, and really just broaden their consciousness and really grow their emotional intelligence. And to see the mindset shifts and the real changes they make in their lives is so impactful. But not only is it impactful to see, but like as we're teaching these lessons, like I feel like I learn and grow so much too. Cause it's like you're repeating, and then you like have little aha moments yourself as you're like sharing the information. So I think coaching is something that I'll probably do for a long time.
Yeah, I love it. I love Destroy the Hairdresser. I love like that you can question Sid and David. I question them about everything. And they're very patient and understanding, and they'll call you out when they need to. But yeah, and watching I think it's funny because we all assume like, oh, it's going to be going gratuity free, hourly pricing, remove the front desk, like remove the retail. And it's funny how little I actually talk about that stuff with my students. Like that's not what we're talking about. It's so much more.
And people don't understand it until they're in it. You got to do it. You got to join us.
I know it is. Yeah. It's always fun that first phone call when you're like, no, we're not talking about any of that stuff. We're going to like figure out your reactive system and you got to start doing this. I love it. And I love challenging my students to do scary things because like they grow so much by taking just even the tiniest risks. And then you see their business change and them take care of themselves and their families. And it's amazing. Like our industry can be so much more than what it is. And I think we're seeing that change.
Mm-hmm. And it's so empowering. Like, we empower people in their business. That's, I think, the perfect description of what Destroy the Hairdresser is empowering salon owners. One person at a time. Like, one-on-one coaching is, I feel like you can't beat the one-on-one coaching. There's nothing more impactful than that.
I will say one of the things that I don't think we talk about enough, or at least it was my experience, because when I signed up for coaching, my husband was going through cancer at the time. We had just moved from Japan to the States. We were homeless. Like, we were living in a hotel when he was going through chemotherapy. And then we moved into our house and it was empty. We had a bed and a lazy boy chair, and my son slept on a blow up mattress. Like, we had nothing in our house. And for some reason I decided, like, we're going to open a business and we're going to start doing this. And I remember hiring my coach, and it can be really lonely, whether you're an independent commission, wherever you're at, it can be really lonely in this industry. And for me, that's like, I didn't feel alone. And I had somebody to like bring me back. Like, it was my saving grace at the time to just have somebody there to say, nope, you need to take care of this, to push you, to help you, like, when you need that help. But it wasn't lonely. And I was so used to being alone in my business. And I think that's probably one of the best things is, like, you have this coach and it's literally your coach on the sidelines wanting to see you grow, wanting to push you, wanting to be there for you. They want to see you succeed. And they put so much passion and effort into it. But yeah, for me, like, having a coach changed everything for me.
Yeah. I wish I would have done it sooner in my career. That's one of my biggest regrets.
I don't think I even knew it was a thing.
I know, right? If it was something that was popular 10 years ago, it would have been amazing.
Yeah. And I think, like, we see so many coaches now, like, it's popping up everywhere. And I think, like, I don't know, I'm totally biased. Like, I love the coaches at DTH. You have to be the right kind of person for it.
Yeah, you do. It's hard. It's very hard. It's not easy. And we're not nice. Like, I mean, we're not here to sugarcoat things. We're not here to hold, like, just to like baby you and hold your hand. We're here to like do the work, get it done so you could experience growth as rapidly as possible.
And I think that, like, if I could be an example of that, like I said, in less than 2 years, my, like, renting a suite to owning a salon, and I'm not from here. Like, nobody knew who I was. And none of that would have happened without coaching.
No.
Like, I probably would still be stuck at that salon renting that booth. Actually, I probably would have quit by now and given up, and we'd be moving somewhere else. But yeah, it can change everything.
I love it. Okay, so tell people where they can find you.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram. It's Christen Barrs, Christen with the CH, or Good Hair Collective. That is the name of my salon in Savannah Park. And of course, the Destroy the Hairdresser website.
And are you taking new students?
I am taking new students. Yeah. I think I have about 4 more spots left for new students.
Awesome. So if you are thinking about coaching with Christen, she's got 4 spots, which usually go pretty fast. So by the time of this podcast, you may have less than that.
I hope so.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I always love chatting with you. It's always so fun to connect with you. And thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning into the Elevate podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. The Elevate podcast is hosted by me, Patricia Nowakowski, and produced by Opulent Beauty Pro. To receive my free business guides, visit opulentbeautypro.com/free or click the link in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at opulentbeautypro or at Patricia_Nowakowski_OBS. If you love this show, please consider subscribing. See you next week.